Hey guys, welcome to this great session. We are on to the video number 14 of the entire cryptography, a different concept about cryptography. This is super important for you if you are preparing for CISSP exam or any other cybersecurity exam. This videos for sure will clear all your doubts. In this particular session, right, we are going to talk about key management. Now, often when we talk about encryption, we are lost in complexity because cryptography, by the way, is meant to be complex, isn't it? But when we when we talk about cryptography, a much more important topic is how well you maintain your key, how well you manage your key throughout the life cycle. So in this particular video, we are going to talk about the entire life cycle of the key and how can we manage it securely. So let's dive in and let's try to understand what are the different life cycle stages of the key. Number one, right? Key has to be generated first and foremost, right? Key generation. So to use a particular key, you have to generate a key or you have to create a key. Why I say create a key? Because many times many companies do not have a automated solution to generate a particular key. In that case, they are actually creating the key or writing the key in a manual way. And using the manual way of managing the key or generating the key is actually not secure. But even if you are doing it, we will talk about some concept which you must follow all the time. But try to bring in automation. That is where we say generation, because human beings are not truly random. They will definitely go back on their family member's name and they will start creating those keys, right? So that's very important. So you should try to automate. The second thing is, when we generate, you try to bring in randomness. As much random you can make the key, that is even more better, right? And then once you generate, those tools which you are using to generate the key must also be tightly controlled. Only authorized people should have access to those key generation tools. That's very important. So that's your life cycle stage number one. The life cycle stage number two is called as key distribution. Once the key is generated, it has to be distributed to the appropriate people. And whenever we distribute that particular key, there are two different ways. One is we go with out of band. What is out of band mechanism? For example, when you order a debit card, they doesn't give you your debit card and the PIN in the same email, right? They either send you by different mechanism, right? Same way, when you want to distribute somebody a key, do not give it with the product. Give them separately in a different way, in a different channel. That is called as out of band. Or in today's world, we ask the user to authenticate and generate their own keys after that. They can go automatically authenticate and generate their own keys. That is also one of the mechanism which is very popular nowadays. Okay, make sure that the key is distributed. So second one is generation, auto generation by the user itself. Then second important thing is the key distribution. Whenever you are distributing the key to somebody, make sure you validate the authenticity. Because by mistake, if you give the particular key to a wrong person, means this can be misused. And then you must maintain the logs. You must maintain the key distribution logs all the time. Core concept. Then we head on to the life cycle stage number 3, which is called as key storage. Now, very important, whenever we want to store the key, right, you have to make sure it is stored in a secure place. Secure device, you can say. It is secure on a secure device or a software, whatever. The best way to store a particular key is HSM, hardware security module. This is a cryptographic module. It acts like a black box. You cannot see what is happening inside. You can just give data to it. You can give a command to it, but you cannot see what is happening inside. It is super secure. It is FIPS 140-2 or 3 also compliant. So that is a big assurance when it comes to HSM. In all financial transactions, all those parties who are handling your PIN and all these kind of things, we always use HSMs. So try to use HSM, but if HSM is too costly affair for your small company, right, there are some other mechanism also which you can use. There is also something called as software security module, or if you are on cloud, you can go with key management solutions as well. Those kind of things you can use. Okay. Now, whenever you store a particular key, there is a concept which is called as key wrapping. Key wrapping is a concept which means if I have a key called as K1, I am going to encrypt it with another key called as K2, and then I am storing K2 in a different location. This entire concept of key encrypting key, people also call it key encrypting key, is called as key wrapping as well. Okay, so that's very, very important. The next concept or the next life cycle stage of the key is key rotation. Now you must define the trigger for key rotation. Very, very important. If a particular key has let's say you have a policy and which says every 1 month we are going to rotate the key, and key rotation has also to be always tied up with the sensitivity and value of the data. If a particular data is of high value, we are going to rotate the key much more often than other. So that is also very, very important concept you guys need to understand. When we rotate the entire key, we must use automated mechanism. Like, I am not saying must, I am nobody to say must, but we should be using the language of should here, right? And then whenever you are rotating the key in an environment, make sure you have the change management process, all the stakeholders are informed, so that this is not a surprise for people. So these are the key things which you will take care of. Number 5th step, right? Number 5th step is key, what is that? Disposition, right? What is key disposition? Where you actually destruct the key. And sometimes even before you destruct, you keep the key for some period of time, because in some cases of urgency or disaster recovery you may require. So sometimes we also keep it for certain period of time. But end of the day, the end idea is you have to make sure that the key are securely deleted. Why a key should be securely deleted? If some expired key also is, somebody is able to get that particular key, they will get a lot of idea what kind of keys you are using, what is the length of the key, and all those kind of stuff. So you should never use it. Okay, then the last stage of any key management entire life cycle is called as key recovery. Right now, what is key recovery? Key recovery means in many cases people will forget the key, sometimes the key will be lost, all of that. So for that there has to be a system where you have the master key, and that has to be very, very much securely handled. Mostly you should have MFA implemented there, right? And you should always be sometimes you should be trying to have some test done on this, that your key recovery method is really working or not, so that in the real DR time you are able to recover the key. Otherwise sometimes it can be a surprise for you as well, right? When we talk about key recovery, there is also a concept called as key escrow. When we use a third party to manage the key as a middleman, for example, you are going to host your client data on the cloud, and the customer is also not very comfortable giving the key to you. So neither you keep it with you, neither you give to the cloud service provider. You can have a separate solution which will be managing your keys, like CyberArk, maybe whatever, right? You can use those kind of solutions. So that is called as key escrow, when key is managed by a third party instead of you, not by the first party, not by the second party, but the third party. In some cases where there is a legal implication, we also have some approved vendors as well who act as key escrow, and if you need that particular key, you need to get the court approval, and then you can only use the key. So that entire, there are different variants of key escrow which you can use. Now guys, in this section we have also spoken about, sorry, the place is little less. So I am going to talk about two more important concepts here. One is called as split key and one is called as dual, you can say dual control. If you are managing your keys manually, like in this particular case you don't have an automated mechanism, it is always preferred to go with split key and dual control. Now what is split key? If I have a big key and this is very super critical for me, I am going to break it into two parts, give it to person number 1, give half to person number 2, and these two people need to feed in their half of the key on the tool to actually use the tool and generate the entire key. So distributing this into two halves and giving it to different people for separation of duty is called as it is called as split key. So if there is a question asking you split knowledge or split key is associated with separation of duty, answer is yes. This is for separation of duties itself to prevent any kind of fraud. Okay, so that's the core concept. Now if there is concept called as dual control, this is again separation of duties also, so that one person should not be able to use the key and we have to use two different people coming together to key in their half of the key and then we will be using it. So that's called as dual control. So guys, just to quickly rewind, the entire key has to be managed securely throughout the life cycle. In generation, try to use automated mechanism. If you are using manual key management, go with split knowledge and you can say dual control. Key distribution, whenever you do it securely. Storage, always make sure you encrypt key with another key called as key encrypting key, also called as key wrapping. Don't miss out on the terms, they are very important. Then comes your key rotation. Always have a trigger. It can be based on policy, based on the sensitivity of the data or the criticality of the data. The more critical it is, more frequently we are going to rotate the key. And even in case you are suspecting a breach of your key, again you should rotate the key, right? If you are managing keys manually, somebody leaving the organization, again you should rotate the key. So these can be the trigger. Key disposition, when we want to destruct the key, and you have to make sure it is destructed securely, it is not recoverable. And then key recovery is where you have a mechanism to recover the key in case people forget about this or people lose the key and all of this. In case of disaster recovery, there is also something called as break glass key as well, which we always key, which is kind of a master key, which is only used in the case of a disaster. So these are some concepts which you must understand. This is super critical from the exam perspective, this particular concept.